Welcome to Networking RX, a podcast devoted to helping business professionals like you enhance your networking skills in order to become more proficient giving and receiving quality business referrals and improving the overall quality of your life and the lives of those around you. The Networking RX podcast is a production of AmSpirit Business Connections, an organization whose mission is to empower business success through networking.
When I graduated from law school, for those who don't know, I was an attorney. I was a tax attorney. When I graduated from law school, I pretty much swore off reading. Law school is a lot of reading. I wear glasses. I think it's because I went to law school. A lot of people end up wearing glasses after going to law school. I just throw that out there. It doesn't matter. But I kind of swore off reading. I've done enough. Yeah, I'll do it for work. I'm going to have to read stuff at work, but I'm not going to be into the professional development, personal development stuff. I may read a novel on vacation or something like that, but I have enough reading and I'm done. But at one point, somebody had taken over what is now AmSpirit Business Connections, and somebody had handed me a copy of a book, Bringing Out the Best in People by Alan Loy McGinnis. And I don't even know if that book's in print anymore. This was probably 20 some years ago. I think you could probably find it, but nevertheless, it was a great book, and it really kind of inspired me and led me to other books. And it led me to lots of John Maxwell. And if you've ever read John Maxwell, they're wonderful books. And John Maxwell does a lot of leading you to other books, and it's just kind of daisy chained into more and more reading. And I've learned a ton reading books, and I'm all about reading. I would like to read more. I do a lot with this, but I encourage you to just pick up books and read, even if it's a few pages a night, just to kind of learn things. People will ask me from time to time, what's my favorite book? And, to be honest, I don't know what my favorite is. I guess my books are my favorite, but outside of the ones I've written, I don't know which ones they are. It sort of depends. I love Alan Loy McGinnis's book, Bringing Out the Best in People. John Maxwell has a ton of great books. There's a lot of great books out there, and I don't think you can go wrong with any of them. They all have lessons to them. And that kind of dovetails into the conversation today about Dr. Seuss. Dr. Seuss's books had wonderful lessons with them. Every one of his books had a fun little lesson. I know they're for kids of all ages, but generally young kids. I did some research out there, various books that Dr. Seuss had. And today's program is really about his greatest lesson. At least I find it to be his greatest lesson. But Cat in the Hat was about embracing fun and spontaneity, but being mindful that you need to be responsible as well. Green Eggs and Ham, be open-minded and willing to try new things as you might discover something new. Horton Hears a Who was about kindness and respect. So it goes on and on. How the Grinch Stole Christmas. Oh, the Places You'll Go. One Fish, Two Fish, Red Fish, Blue Fish was a favorite. Reading to my kids. The Lorax. Hop on Pop. I think every dad reads that one. Fox and Socks, and The Snitches and Other Stories was another book. But the book I really want to talk about today is Dr. Seuss's book, And to Think I Saw It on Mulberry Street. Now, to think I saw it on Mulberry Street, I'll just call it the Mulberry Street book, is a story about a boy named Marco who observes a simple horse-drawn cart on Mulberry Street, but he lets his imagination go wild, and he transforms the mundane into this grand and exciting parade of fantastic creatures and events. And the lesson to that book is that it encourages us to embrace creativity and think outside the box and let our imagination soar. And it is one of my favorite books, certainly to read to my kids, because I could get into it, have voices and characters, and those days are long since past. Maybe sometime when I have grandkids, but for now, that was the lesson there. But that's not Dr. Seuss's greatest lesson. It was really kind of the story behind that book, if you will, that was the greatest lesson. It was Dr. Seuss was a graduate of Dartmouth College, and he decided in the summer of 1936 that he was going to really get back into writing. And so one of the first books he wrote was the Mulberry Street book, and to think that I saw it on Mulberry Street. And I won't get into the whole history of it, but he was I delved into this several years ago, but he was riding on a boat. It was an overnight trip on a boat, and he couldn't sleep, and so he was up and he was listening to the engine. There was kind of a hum, a rhythmic hum to the engine, and that inspired him to write this particular book. Um, and so he wrote the book, and he set about getting it published. And he got lots of no's. He heard things like the story was too different. It wasn't like the Dick and Jane stories for children at the time. He was told that the verses were too difficult for children to read, and it would be too troublesome for them too troublesome for them to comprehend. And he was told that there was no lessons, really no lessons in the stories. And so in the winter of 1936 to 37, he received 27 total rejections. And when he got the 27th rejection, Dr. Seuss decided that he was going to head home and stage a ceremonial burning of the now tattered manuscript. I mean, back in the day, you didn't have umpteen copies. You had one copy. It wasn't being emailed around digitally. It was one copy, and he was sharing it, and people were giving it back, and it was all beat up. But he was going to go home, and he was just going to burn it. Hey, you know what? This was stupid. Why did I do this? But along the way, he ran into a fellow classmate from Dartmouth College, Mike McClintock. McClintock is the name. Um, and Dr. Seuss shared his story. What, geez, I just did this, and everyone's saying no, and this is what they're saying. I'm going home to burn this. Well, as luck would have it, McClintock, his classmate, 3 hours earlier had become the juvenile editor for Vanguard Press. And within 30 minutes, Vanguard Press had committed to publish Dr. Seuss's book. And that just launched everything. And so what I see as the greatest lesson for Dr. Seuss is just the notion that we need to be willing to connect with people that we already know. And so often with respect to networking, we're we're fixated on meeting new people. I want to meet this new person, and they'll introduce me to somebody else, and eventually somebody will be a client. That's what I want to do. Um, and there's really nothing wrong with that, but the the real lesson or the real power to our network are the people that we already know. And if you stop and think about all the people that you already know, it's a lot. I mean, it's really a lot. You know, people from high school. I When I was gone over the last week, I was in my hometown at a high school event, and I ran into none of my classmates, but I ran into people who have the shared experience of being in the same high school. Some knew of me, some were older, didn't know of me. Just met people, for many met for the first time. But people there were people who knew my brother and my sister, and it's just it's amazing what can come from people we know from high school, certainly from college. Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, all of these things provide us great opportunity to reconnect with people that we already know. And there's a lot of potential with respect to the people we already know because they already know us, they already like us, they already trust us. We just need to catch them up on our particular worlds. And and the other thing that ends up happening is a lot of times people will be like, I don't want to meet that person, or I don't want to reconnect with that person. And they think about that person as being stuck in the same place where they saw them last. And that's not true. That person had hopes, dreams, and aspirations that they were pursuing, and they continued to grow their lives and continued to uh, become something as Dr. Seuss's college classmate at Dartmouth did. I became juvenile editor of the exact place that Dr. Seuss needed to be. So the truth of the matter is this, and I'll end it here. Is that if you're between the ages of 19 and 90, um, you already know more people than you're probably going to meet over the next year. And there's nothing wrong with getting out there and networking with new people, but stop and take the time to find individuals in your network that you've lost touch with, and reach out to them and reconnect. And I know it can seem a little awkward at first doing this, but you have to remember that you're a blessing to them as much as they'll be a blessing to you. And most of the time, those people will welcome the reconnection if it's done right. It's not a sales pitch, but if it's done right, people will welcome that connection to you, and things will go somewhere. And if they don't, then they're not for you anyways, and you just move on. So reconnect, Dr. Seuss's best lesson. Reconnect with the people you already know in your life.
Thanks for joining us on the Networking RX podcast. Please put what you've learned into action today and let us know if you have questions, comments, or ideas for future topics. You can email them to us at podcast@amspirit.com. That's AMSPIRIT.com. Finally, so you never miss an episode, be sure to subscribe to the Networking RX podcast through iTunes, Overcast, or however you receive your podcasts. Now get out and network with someone.
The Networking RX podcast is the copyright production of AmSpirit Business Connection. All rights reserved.